evening, everyone. Good everyone. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good morning. So today's topic, it's about, are you dealing with toxic parents? Are you dealing with toxic parents? This is a loaded topic because a lot of the time we feel like guilt even talking about our parents, and especially talking about not in a good way, right? So, even like I had a coach a few years ago, and when I was like sharing with her what I was experiencing with my parents, especially when I was a teenager, but it doesn't matter when, even into my adulthood. So I told her that I feel like kind of a guilt just by talking about my parents. I felt like I was talking about them beyond their backs, right? So she told me something, and I remember it until today. She told me, Limor, it's not about them, it's about your experience. Are you experienced, right? All those things that you went through, right? So it's really about us, how we experience now this situation. So what are toxic parents? They're like, when we have toxic friends, it's so easy like to cut them out, cut them out of our life, right? But when it's family, it's more problematic, let's say, right? So what are toxic parents? Toxic parents basically are parents that they want to control you, right? But not in a reasonable way, right? They want to control you. They interrogate you a lot. Where have you been? What are you doing? And I'm not talking about like if you're 10 years old, right? If you are watching this video, most likely you are more than like maybe 18 and stuff, right? So they interrogate you, they judge you, they want to decide the direction of your life, right? They want to tell you what to do all the time. And this is the big one. How do you know if they are toxic? When you say no or when you resist them, they start to guilt trip you, right? And they start telling you all those stuff like, you're not a good kid, right? You don't care, you hate us, or what are you doing? And this is a big one. You should feel ashamed, be ashamed because like I carried you for 9 months, or I've done all those things for you, or I sacrificed my life for you, and this is how you repay me, right? We get it a lot. And I've noticed that not a lot of people want to talk about those subjects because it's kind of a taboo, right? To talk not in a really positive way about our parents. So people just learn to live with it, right? With toxic parents, they have like narcissist tendencies, right? The narcissist tendencies are especially when they try to guilt trip you when you're not doing as they say, right? And this is not your job. So ask yourself, so the first step is just to recognize that you have toxic parents, right? You have toxic parents with narcissist tendencies or whatever, right? Just to recognize that dynamics, it's not healthy. Because the problem is that you don't even recognize, because you lived it all your life, right? With a demanding parents. So you think that this is reality and this is how it should be, and you should sacrifice your life, or you should put your life on hold, right? For their agenda. But it doesn't work like this. So first, just recognize that dynamic, it's not healthy, right? And you know what? We think it's about our parents, but at a certain point, it's about us, because we allow this behavior, right? We allow them to behave like this, like towards us, right? So at a certain point, it's about us and setting boundaries. So just ask yourself, like if you're dealing with toxic parents, ask yourself, like in general in your life, are you dealing with more people in your life that are demanding, and do you have problem to set boundaries with people? Ask yourself, because I've been there. This is still up until today, I catch myself sometime. So ask yourself, are you saying yes when you want to say no? Right? So yeah, are you saying yes when you want to say no with people? Are you having a hard time setting boundaries with people? Right? So most likely that if you're dealing with toxic parents, most likely you experience like in other areas in your life, right? So just recognize that this is not healthy for you or for them, and you're allowed it, but now you can make it stop. How? First, recognize. Second, start to set boundaries, right? And the hard thing about boundaries is that, especially, when we are living with those parents, when we raise those parents, we tend to become people pleasers, right? People pleasers. The main problem with people pleasers is that we have a hard time to create kind of a tension with people, because if we create tension with people, oh, they're not going to like me, or they're going to to take their love for me, or I'm going to be abandoned by people, or I'm going to left alone. Because when we're raised by those people, we think that we need to please everyone else like we used to please our parents. Yes, it is challenging, right? It is very challenging, but just recognize that you have the solution. Because I had like a coach back then, like a few years ago, and she really helped me to deal with toxic parents and what I was going through. And really what's challenging in this situation is that sometimes we want to receive something from our parents, like positive words, or we want to feel like affection, or we want to feel like encouragement and stuff. And when we don't receive it, and we receive the opposite, right? We receive judgmental behavior, or we receive a lot of criticism, right? So we even into our adulthood, we want to receive those things, but the first step is just to, and it was really challenging for me to understand and to accept that I'm not going to receive what I want from my parents. That's it. Because most likely if you are watching this video, your parents are more than 50, 67 years old, so they're not going to change their behavior, right? They're not. I'm sorry. And it's a really hard pill to swallow, right? Especially when we have like this little inner child that still wants their affection, that wants their validation, right? So we grow up as people and we become people pleasers, and people that we are searching for external validation from other people, because we want to receive what we haven't received in our childhood, right? So I started to give those things to myself. But let's get back to the topic of toxic parents. All right, so how do you set boundaries with toxic parents? First, you look on other areas of your life. Ask yourself, where do I not set boundaries with people where I should be? And start practicing. Like I said, if you say yes to people but you want to say no, so just start to be aware of those behaviors, right? So you start to practice this muscle. So when you are dealing with your parents, let's say you are not living with your parents anymore, and like for me, I used to go to my parents every day. And this is like a codependent, unhealthy relationship, because you are not supposed, like when you're in a 30 or 40 years old, to be codependent. And I know that this is how certain societies, this is how you should be. You just say yes. Or of course, I'm not saying not to be like disrespectful, but you have to recognize that if you are setting boundaries with your parents, it doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't make you a bad child, right? Because this is what you're struggling with. You think that you are a bad child and you are disrespectful, right? And you should be like punished or something if you stand up to your parents. But what about your life? What about the thing that you want to achieve? Are you supposed to live in your life, sacrificing your life and your choices just to please your parents? No. Your parents are the vessel which through you came into this world. They're just the vessel. You don't have to dedicate your life to pleasing your parents. And again, I'm not saying to be disrespectful, or I'm not saying, to not to be ungrateful or to not be thankful and stuff. But at a certain point, we need to set boundaries. So how do you set boundaries with your parents, right? First, if you are not living with them, you just you can just come to visit them less often, right? So if you like go to visit them 5 days a week, just reduce it to 4 or 3. And at the beginning, you're going to receive a lot of resistance from your parents, or you're going to receive a lot of like backlash, or they're not going to accept it. So what I learned, to do it in a really gentle way at the beginning, they're not even going to notice it. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to turn on them like 180. Oh, I'm not coming anymore. Bye bye. Sometimes sometimes you should do it like in maybe later down the road, but at the beginning, think of yourself. You are like an addict, a drug addict, right? And as a drug addict, you have like it's like an addiction. And it's not just an addiction for them. It's an addiction also for you. In a subconscious level, right? You are addicted to receiving their love and affection and validation, and to please them, right? So there's also you get things from those behavior as well. So start to visit them less often at the beginning, and in a very delicate way. They're not going to even notice it at the beginning, right? Okay, so if let's say like they call you, and there are people that are handling like those kind of parents. They call you 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, right? So sometimes you're allowed not to take the call, or if it's hard for you, don't take the call, or just text them, or because if they have like narcissist tendencies, most likely their energy are really intense, like no, right? Really intense, and like, oh my God, like take a breath, come on, So when you feel this energy, it's even more triggering and even more like, like you don't know what to do with this kind of behavior. So let's say they call you a lot. So take one call at the beginning, and I will talk to you about it later. Take one call, right? Or even like just don't take the call and text them. You know what? Just write down whatever you want to say, right? And have them engage with you in a text message. This is better than feeding their energy over the phone, right? So, the thing is that because you feel like you don't have control over the situation. So one thing that I used to do, and it's really brought the sense of control to my life. So instead of me, like, like sitting there and, oh, I'm going to get this call from them, I initiated the call, at the beginning of the day, right? I initiated the call at the beginning of the day, and it made me some like made me feel like in control instead of not knowing when they are going to call me. You know what I'm saying? But the big one, it's to create a distance, an emotional distance, and even like physical distance. What do I mean by emotional distance? Most likely, if you are dealing with toxic parents, they interrogate you and they're used to you sharing everything about your life, right? And a lot of the time I experience it, they take this information and they use it, they weaponize this information against you, right? So share less information with them. And when you want to start to create boundaries, or like they're telling you, oh, can you pick me up and stuff, and you just can't do it. So you know what? No, I can't do it right now. Oh, and at the beginning, they will be shocked because they use that you are, doing everything for them instantly. So you're going to receive resistance from them. And in that certain point, you have to be like to turn off your emotions, even if you are like a warm person, because you have to be really strict with them, right? So what does it mean? Oh, I can't do it right now, mom or dad. Or if oh, you don't love me anymore. No, I need you to do it right now. Or mom, it's not about you. There's something that I want to deal with. There's something that I'm doing right now, and I can't do it right now. And you just stop the communication altogether, because they want to suck you in like emotionally, what with the guilt trip and stuff. So just stop, because when you continue to engage with them, it's like a fuel. Okay, mom? And if she continues, okay, no, I can't do it right now. I'm sorry. I know I can't do it right now. And just be like really cold emotionally, even though it's hard for you. When I started to set boundaries with my parents, there are certain like situations when I was like sitting in my car crying, because it's like an addiction and you are like in a withdrawal. Like you're in withdrawal because you're telling yourself, oh, I'm a bad kid, you know, it's not right what I'm doing, right? Especially when they are not going to make it easier for you, right? To just disappear. I'm not saying that you have to disappear, but just, to come less often, to communicate less, in order for you to just to protect your energy. You have to protect your energy, right? If you have like a toxic friend and you don't like this friend, you're like, whatever, I'm not going to deal with this friend anymore, bye-bye, right? But you cannot do it with your parents. It's different. So at the beginning, it will be hard for you and for them. So start to say no. Start to come to visit less often. You don't have to take every call, right? You can't initiate, because let's say you don't want to deal with your parents. So most likely, like I used to do, you're not picking up the calls, and you're like, oh my God, this again. But when you will start to initiate those calls, like let's say at the beginning of the day, they would be like surprised. Oh, they are calling me, right? And in a way, this is going to soothe them. It's going to like make them feel like more, because they want your acceptance, they want your attention, right? Because most likely they're growing up in a home that was really strict, really tough, right, environment. So that's why this is how they get their needs met, by being control over your life, and by guilt trip you. This is how this is just a way for them to get their needs met, right? Excuse me. Okay, so you're going to do it gradually. You're pulling your energy, and if they're telling you, oh, that's a big one, you have changed, you have changed. Like my mom used to tell me, because I went to coaching school a few years ago, ever since you start going to this coaching school, you've changed, right? Because I started to be more, and it's more about you feeling more comfortable in your own skin, and you holding your frame. That's a big one. You holding your frame with those people. Why? Because they are not going to change, and you have to protect your energy. And you can be loving, and you can be respectful even when you say no. Right? It doesn't make you the bad one. You have to recognize it. Because you are here to live your life on your own terms. And I'm not saying, because sometimes our parents, they do have more experience, and it's okay to hear them out, but you don't have to listen if it's not resonate with you. And most likely, if you are watching this video, maybe you've been through a spiritual awakening, and you are more the sensitive one in your family, right? And you can feel other people's energies, like we call it, like you are like an empath. You feel other people's energies, and most likely maybe your childhood wasn't like, rainbows and sunshine, or maybe you had some kind of abuse, right? I ran away from home when I was 18, because I went through things that a child not supposed to go through, and this is like a topic for other video. But just recognize that now, when you are more mature and you're aware, this is your responsibilities to start to set boundaries, because they are not going to change, right? And you don't have to sacrifice your life, because you're allowed to live your life in your terms, because they live their life in their terms in a way, right? So no more guilt tripping. So do it gradually, and you will feel so empowered, and you will feel like a weight is like went off your shoulders. You will feel so light, and you will feel so empowered when you're going to do it, right? And you will be like more in your own energy, right? Even if you live with them, you can create like physical distance from them. Or if they start to be on your case, you can actually leave in the middle of the conversation, like, I'm not doing it right now, right? And you can go away, you can protect your energy. And this is your responsibility to protect your energy, because no one, and especially they're not going to do it for you, right? So if you take few things from this live, recognize, they are not going to change. This is your responsibility to set boundaries, right? And it will make your life so much better, just by you expressing yourself and your boundaries, right? And then you will be free to go and live your life, right? Instead of dealing with how to navigate, those types of people, and especially if they are your parents, right? So tell yourself you're not a bad kid if you are saying no, right? So start to do it gradually, and in time it's going to compound. And you know what? The big one, that at the beginning you will receive a lot of resistance from them, but at a certain point they are going to respect your boundaries. Because everything is just a reflection. So when you respect your boundaries internally, they will going to respect that too. I experience it myself, right? It's not just, oh, yeah, and I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. You're going to feel like an addict having a withdrawal, right? Because this codependency is mutual. It's because there's some kind of benefit that you're receiving from this situation. Maybe they are fixing your meals or maybe whatever, right? So this is, I throw a, this is like a lot of things to digest what I just said. So just let it to sink in. But the first thing, just recognize that this dynamic, it's not healthy. So maybe there's a delay. I don't know, because sometimes my phone is getting heat up from the sun. I'm in my car. So thank you so much for watching. You can watch the replay, and if you have question, go ahead and ask the question if you are watching the replay. So I'm offering 30 minutes clarity call for free, right? So you can apply using the link below. So I wish you a wonderful day, right? A wonderful weekend or week, and I'm going to see you. Thank you for watching. Love you so much, and you're always on track. You're always in the right direction. Remember it. Bye bye.